Toddo Aurello would regale me with tales of the hidden undercurrents of Cosa Nostra, speaking in hushed tones that betrayed a hint of nostalgia. As I wasn't yet part of the inner circle, he limited himself to vague allusions. But the truth was that Bensonhurst's streets were already alive with whispers of the mob's existence. The news of Joseph Valachi's stunning betrayal, which had electrified the nation, barely registered a blip on the local radar. After all, it was old news to us. I was just a teenager, still wet behind the ears. But I remember Toddo's words like they were yesterday. The scuttlebutt on the street, he recalled, was that the Valachi revelations were a major embarrassment for the Genovese clan. As we chatted, Toddo would transport himself back to the birthplace of the mob in Sicily, where peasants had banded together against French occupation and tyranny. He saw the American Mafia as a parallel government, a fiercely independent entity that looked out for its own and stood against the perceived enemy state of America. In his eyes, this was a society that revered honor above all else. Our conversations were never formal, just casual chats that would meander into the history of Cosa Nostra. Toddo would get lost in the tales of the old days, where family mattered, integrity was king, and the community came first. I recall the subtle warnings from him, hinting that the decay was spreading not just in Italy, but right here in our own backyard. He'd point out how some of the guys were becoming more and more brazen, flaunting their fancy lifestyles, parading their mistresses around town, and generally making a spectacle of themselves. He'd say that this trend might have started with Al Capone's high-profile antics, which didn't exactly align with our values of discretion and humility. I remember one time he told me about a run in with Carlo Gambino at a restaurant. Carlo had spotted him with a girlfriend, and he didn't mince words. "What's the matter with you bringing this lady around here where everyone knows you and your wife? Don't you have any sense of shame, any pride, any respect for your family?" Toddo didn't take offense, though. He knew Carlo was right and he was wrong. If you couldn't be loyal to your own family, how could you expect to be loyal to the organization? It wasn't about the occasional slip up either. Every man strays at some point, but it's how you handle it. You don't broadcast it to the world, making a fool of your wife and embarrassing her in front of others. Toddo would look back on that encounter with Carlo and realize it was a sign of his own downfall, a creeping decay of his values and moral. When Joe Colombo took his anti-FBI crusade to the airwaves, parading his cause on talk shows and rallying on the streets, he made a critical misstep. Though his intentions were undoubtedly pure, he underestimated the power of the press. By trying to muzzle the media's use of the M-word, he inadvertently lent them credibility. It's a losing battle, and one that's not worth fighting.